first films to hit the big screen were silent. They were in black and white. Their picture wasn't particularly clear. And these early films typically consisted of one continuous shot. We've certainly come a long way since then. Now the motion picture has become a part of our everyday lives. We watch it in the theater still. Now we also watch video on our televisions, our computers, tablets, and even our smartphones. In addition to this proliferation of ways to access video, the process and the art of creating it have also evolved. For the next few minutes, we're going to explore what video is and how it has come to be what it is today, both physically and artistically. From the Latin for I see, video could be defined as the electronic medium for recording, copying, playback, broadcasting, and display of moving visual images. Video can come in the form of a tape, as has been its tradition for most of its history, or it can now be recorded digitally thanks to the rapid advances in technology in the 20th and 21st century. Video is a form of film that can be altered digitally. It offers countless possibilities for filmmakers because it frees itself of the physical limitations that film has. For example, an editor can undo any mistake that has been made in a digital editor. In addition to this, an editor has the leisure of experimenting with shot progressions almost infinitely. After the first public showing of the Lumiere brothers' motion picture in 1895, videos were soon being produced by many others besides the Lumiere brothers. The videos grew not only in number, but also in length and complexity. Audiences came to see each new film with a feverish type of excitement, paving video's way to becoming an entertainment product. It took some time before people began arguing that video could be used for other purposes, such as education.
To begin with, a new orthophonic, high-fidelity recording is not just the mechanical reproduction of a concert performance. It's
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
And propaganda.
Then, with the combined sea power of Germany, Britain, Italy, France, and Japan, he could control the seas and tell us where to head in.
It wasn't until the mid-1980s that a group called the International Telecommunication Union created the first digital video. They dubbed it H120. Now, it failed to impress, but it did set the standard for a new type of video. From H120's release in 1984, a new standard, H261, which came out in 1986, showed progress, boasting a 352 by 288 resolution. By 1991, MPEG-1 was born. This new format marked the true beginning for video, as its picture was finally clear enough for standard definition. In 1994, the ITU and MPEG worked together to create the MPEG-2, aka H262, a far superior video which had a resolution that was about twice as big as its predecessor. In 1998, MPEG-4, or H264, emerged along with the developments of high-definition standards. Since then, many other formats have also been created. Some of these are MP4, WMV, FLV, and many, many others. David Wark Griffith was born January 22, 1875 in LaGrange, Kentucky. Griffith would come to be known as one of the single most influential figures in American film and in the progression of film as an art. He grew up in Louisville, where he helped his father, a veteran of the Mexican War, provide for their family by taking odd jobs at different places. Griffith soon found an interest in the theater after being exposed to it during one of his odd jobs. After that, he worked as an actor for a while. He wrote a couple of scripts, which ended up unsuccessful, and after this, he took on a job as an actor for the American Biograph Company. After acting in only 5 films, Griffith was hired by the American Biograph Company for film production in 1908. From 1908 to 1915, Griffith was pumping out 2 one-reelers a week, or about 700 in 7 years. During this time, we see a big change in film. Instead of having a steady camera perform a single shot, there is juxtaposition. Before 1907, a continuous shot was conducted, which today would seem flat and dull. Griffith seemed to bring to light some of the potential of film as an artistic medium in itself. Instead of one continuous shot, Griffith moved his camera closer in order to capture his subject's emotions. While he did not invent the medium shot, the extreme long shot, or even the close-up, as he is often credited, he was the first among filmmakers to use them together. Griffith also taught us how to create fantasy. In his movie Intolerance, there's a scene with a man falling from a high wall. The fall is broken into 2 shots. The first shot is of the person falling, which could either be a dummy or it could be a real person falling onto a net, which is out of the camera's view. The second shot is of the man falling near the bottom of the wall. The angle of the camera offers the illusion that it is the same wall, the same place, because the camera doesn't see the top of the low wall. Griffith took these ideas and ran with them. The problem, though, was that Griffith's art was based on his instinct, so no formal procedure was ever made by him, forcing those that wished to emulate him to study his work and formulate their own technique. Sergei Eisenstein was born in Riga, Latvia, on January 23, 1898. He stayed mostly with his father after his parents separated when he was 8. In 1915, Eisenstein became a student of engineering. However, his passion for the theater drove him to pursue a career in the arts, abandoning civil engineering. After a couple of years in the Red Army, and during a time of civil war, Eisenstein found himself working as a set designer for a theater troupe. This was a time when people were arguing over what would be the new face of theater, or whether or not it should be banned altogether. By 1922, Eisenstein had been promoted to administrative head and artistic director of a splinter group of the troupe he had originally been hired into. Under this job, he put on several performances, like Gas Masks of 1924, which took place in a real Moscow gas factory. However, these seemed to do little more than frustrate Eisenstein with the limitations of the theater on his idea of the montage. Eisenstein had always been interested in the work of D.W. Griffith, especially his cutting techniques. This led him in 1923 to attend a film workshop led by Lev Kuleshov, yet another highly influential film theoretician. Here he seized an opportunity to work with Esther Shub to recut a Soviet-approved version for films. Shortly after this, Eisenstein got his first project, called Strike, which was supposed to be an episode in an 8-part epic meant to depict the revolutionary struggles in Russia before 1917. The moderate success opened opportunities for Sergei to take on new assignments and further develop his technique. Eisenstein was known for being prepared. He would spend literally weeks just going over the script, and then after that he'd spend several more weeks figuring out every single camera shot that he wanted to make before he even picked up a camera. And before the cameras even rolled, he knew exactly how it would be edited. You could attribute that quality in Eisenstein to either being an extremely gifted director, or you could also attribute it to the fact that in those days, film and different equipment were not easy to come by. In fact, many times Eisenstein and his teams would have to build lots of equipment themselves. While D.W. Griffith tended to accentuate the relationships between scenes in a film and broke these scenes into shots, Eisenstein saw, in addition to the relationship between scenes, an aesthetic relationship between the shots themselves. This can be seen in the film October, which, in the beginning, shows the statue of the Tsar being torn down to show the fall of the leader. Later in the film, the statue is seen coming back together as the footage is replayed backwards. This symbolizes the establishment of the Kerensky government, and it is meant to be ridiculed. Shots of Kerensky are followed by shots of Napoleon Bonaparte in similar poses. In addition to this, there are several shots of the faces of gods, and several quick shots of medals and documents to symbolize the idea of forgotten country, to defend against invasion. In another one of his films, Battleship Potemkin, Eisenstein uses what is now referred to as an intellectual montage in the famous Odessa Steppes scene. In this scene, the speed of movement and the cuts say just as much about the mood generated as does the activity within the shot. This is to say that the content was only as powerful as the way it was presented. In one part of the scene, there is a shot in which a man begins to fall, but the view is cut to chaos going on somewhere else. The shot cuts back to finish the shot of the man falling. The montage sought to draw the eye to different sites in a way that the eye would move in a real situation. In addition, it aimed to ensure that the adjacent images would induce the proper aesthetic. It was Eisenstein's belief that shot A and shot B combined created something entirely new and greater than the sum of its parts. So what does this mean to us? Well, thinking about the ideas of associative relationships between shots, the cutting and rearranging of footage to make it more pleasing, and choosing what to focus on, allows media to almost manipulate our emotional response to it. The right footage in a news story might have the potential to generate sympathy, rouse anger,
to police about what happened, plus abuse charges. Her boyfriend faces multiple counts of felony child abuse.
KKCO 11 News reporter Christy Diamond is live at the hospital where the child is still clinging to life.
or even fear, depending on the arrangement.
It's an interactive map to find out where sex offenders live anywhere in South Florida. All of their latest registered addresses are there. You can see if any live on your street.
Videos have a significant impact on people. What kind of impact and to what degree depend on the content of the video and how it is edited. Imagine how boring a movie would be if you had to watch the lead character pour his or herself a bowl of cereal for breakfast and eat it before the story could begin. Pretty boring. Movies tend to skip the boring parts and jump straight to what the directors feel is important or exciting. This has a great potential to slip into other forms of media consequently. Sometimes, just taking out the smallest part of what a person says or does can make them out to be a totally different person than who they really are. Interviews, speeches, and news stories are highly susceptible to this, for example.
Mr. President, thank you for sitting down with us.
Great to be with you.
What do you think's going on out there that accounts for so many states seemingly collapsing, and the kind of level of disorder that we're seeing?
Our goal should be to help big countries, to muscle little countries, and to gain advantages with respect to trade or with respect to maritime rules, what have you.
Film and video are dramatic art forms by nature. Therefore, it's no surprise that even commercial versions of film and video still tend to cause audiences to have an emotional reaction. It should come as no surprise that these emotional responses can be used to influence moods, thoughts, even behavior and beliefs. These films can promote unity among people through a powerful message that connects us in the universal struggle of trying to survive. There can also be a negative side to this idea, though. Perhaps, inevitably, like radio and print before it, video became another outlet for propaganda.
Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Editing has allowed us to create whole new worlds, where everything looks as real as you or I. This can be great in films like Star Wars, in which a toy spacecraft was dangling in front of a cutout that looked like space. Not to mention all the green screen and CGI. These types of visual tricks help to immerse the viewer into a world of fantasy. But the magic of these techniques has led some people to feel that those techniques could be used in a less ethical fashion. For example, some people hold the belief that the moon landing in 1969 was a hoax. They argue that a Hollywood studio could have easily designed a set to look like the moon. They cite evidence such as the multiple shadows coming off subjects, such as the flag. Whether the moon landing was real or staged is not part of this study. But what is interesting is that Hollywood definitely has the potential to create a realistic moon landing. And it does raise questions about how to discern the real from the edited. More and more experts are being called in to determine whether footage is legitimate or doctored. Through our study of D.W. Griffith and Sergei Eisenstein, we've learned a few things about where today's trends in editing come from. While today's videos are much more heavily cut, the scenes juxtaposed more often, many of the techniques crafted by these two pioneers are still in use today. Recognizing these techniques not only makes video much more enriching as a viewer, it also teaches you to think critically about what you're watching. Why did the nightly news choose the footage that it did? What is the point of those shots that seem random? Asking questions like this can lead to a deeper understanding of the art behind videos, as well as in its intention. And now for one final piece of advice. Don't believe everything you see.